What is up guys, Deadset here. So I've shown you a couple of endgame builds already, but a question that I get regularly is what do I do if I don't have the 6Ps Akkhans, if I don't have the Dark Light, or I don't have a Falcon's food. So what I'm going to show you today is a setup that's very easy to gear for, that requires only rare items and crafted pieces. Let me show you the build. These are the skills I'm using. As you can see, the primary interaction is going to be between Blessed Hammer with Burning Wrath, Consecration with Shattered Ground, and the damage over time proc of Akkhans Champion with Firestarter. I'll go over the skills. Blessed Hammer with Burning Wrath is going to be the only Wrath spender. There are a number of reasons why I picked it for a spender, but the biggest one is that Blessed Hammer is the only skill in the category that will reasonably allow you to run a no-generator build without owning a 6Ps Akkhans. With an amazing cost of 10 Wrath per cast and being one of the skills that has been consistently buffed since release, it easily offsets the only significant drawback that I can point out, namely the inability of the hammer to hit a single target more than once. I've picked the Fire rune both because of the great stats and the ease of improving a setup based around fire damage, but I'll get to that in a minute. Consecration with Shattered Ground is going to be our second damage dealer. It is an area of effect spell with a twofold effect. First, it adds about 8000 life regeneration while you stand in the circle, and considering I have removed any source of healing from the build, be it from passives or paragon points, I think this part of the skill is of no small importance. The second effect of Shattered Ground is a fire-based damage over time, once again within the circle. The percentage isn't very impressive by itself, but since it applies the damage over time from Akkhans Champion, it will quickly incinerate any enemies standing within. Provoke with Charged Up is an overall solid skill. It will serve you as a Swiss knife with the triple utility of a damage boost, of restoring your wrath, which you will eventually deplete since you lack the constant Akkhans Champion, and it will attract your enemies close so that the Blessed Hammers have an easier time crushing everyone in their path. Laws of Valor with critical is a much needed damage boost. Attack speed is always welcome in a Blessed Hammers build, and with the improved uptime of Laws in patch 2.05, when you fight elites, you can count on it to supplement your deficiencies in crit damage, which are surely there at the gear levels that the video is aimed at. It can be very tempting to use Unstoppable Force instead and remove any worry of your wrath ever running out, but I advise against it. At the early gearing stages, it's mostly a learning experience to juggle between the cooldowns of Provoke and Akkhans Champion, and with just two very easy upgrades from the gear in the demonstration, all the concerns about the minuscule cost of Blessed Hammer will be gone. Steed Charge with Nightmare rune. This will primarily be used as a mobility skill to get places faster and keep you out of danger. Like the Laws, with patch 2.05, Steed Charge has been given improved uptime, so if your only goal is pure speed, you can switch to the longer lasting Endurance rune. I opted for the more offensive choice, which is the Nightmare, since it deals respectable damage for a mobility skill and it procs the Akkhans Champion dot. Finally, the real star of the build, Akkhans Champion with Firestarter. Naturally, this ability scales with your fire damage on the gear. However, the interesting part about the damage over time effect is that instead of overwriting itself from one hit to the other, it actually stacks the dots. So within several seconds of you starting to attack, the fire dot turns from a minor tick into a burning plague on top of your enemies. I must say there are legitimate concerns that this ability is not working as intended, but until the next patch, this rune can take you very far. As for the passives, Heavenly Strength is self-explanatory for two-handed Crusaders. Blunt is a 20% damage increase to your main Wrath spender, which is as good as a simple passive can get. Holy Cause is a straight up 10% damage increase, and regardless of us not doing holy damage to make use of the heal, it's still a solid damage boost. And we round out the passives with Finery, with 7 sockets across the gear, this passive adds a significant amount of strength. This is it for the build. Now let's move on to the gear. I already mentioned that we are going to use two crafted sets, the Guilds and Captain Crimsons. I'm setting very low gear assumptions for this build, which will include not having a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Guild is arguably the best crafted set in the game right now, certainly the most widespread and with good reason. It offers a nice damage reduction bonus for the 2-piece, but the 3-piece is where it's at, offering both damage against and protection from elites. You can hardly ask for more in a game centered around fighting elite enemies. We'll be using the Guild bracers, aiming for strength, crit chance and fire damage bonus, and preferably with either vitality or all resistance. The Guild helm, aiming for strength, crit chance and a socket, and preferably with either all resistance or blessed hammer bonus. And the Guild shoulders, aiming for strength, vitality, all resistance and cooldown reduction. The Captain Crimson set is also going to be a perfect fit for the build, offering us 10% cooldown reduction for the 2-piece and 50 all resist and 10% resource cost reduction for the 3-piece. We'll be using the Captain Crimson belt, aiming for the highest possible toughness stats that we can, the Captain Crimson pants, of course seeking strength, double socket, vitality and all resistance, and the Captain Crimson boots, ideally with strength, vitality, all resistance and bonus to blessed hammer. Crafting both the Guild set and the Captain Crimson set will demand a special crafting material. I have added all the relevant information on how to obtain these materials in the video description below. I must stress, however, join a material farming community. There are constantly people farming for Guilds and Captain Crimsons among other sets, so go along with them. It will significantly lower the time you need to craft the aforementioned pieces. On the EU servers, the community is called Crafting Mats, and I'm fairly certain that there's a similar community on the US servers as well. As for the rest of the pieces, I'm using simple rares, prioritizing stats as follows. On the gloves, I aim for strength, cooldown reduction, crit chance and crit damage. On the amulet, I go for strength, cooldown reduction, fire bonuses and crit damage. On the rings, I value strength, cooldown reduction and crit stats. For the chest, I value strength, vitality, all resistance and 3 sockets. There is a relatively easy to obtain upgrade for this slot, one that will make the blessed hammers even easier and smoother to use without the 6-piece Akkhans, and that is a Cinder Coat. This unique chest improves the damage of your fire skills and reduces their cost. The weapon, I go for strength, cooldown reduction and socket. This is the second slot where you can have a relatively easy upgrade, the Maximus two-handed sword. Even though you'll lose the cooldown reduction, you get a heavy-hitting fire bonus sword with a fun and useful unique proc, the demon with the fire chain, which you can position to use to your advantage. As for the shield, aim for strength, cooldown reduction and crit chance, and preferably vitality to offset any deficiencies you have in that department. Let's talk about paragon points. To keep the challenge fair, I reset all of my points and allowed myself only one stat per category to max out, just to simulate a relatively new Crusader. I went for full movement speed in the core section, of course I would put the rest in strength, cooldown reduction in offense, and would put the rest in crit damage and crit chance, all resist in defense, going for armor and life percentage after that, and area damage in utility, with life on hit and resource cost reduction as my next choices. So this is it for the build, something very easy to itemize for, that you can take up to Torment 4 within a day of farming, and will prepare you for most of the abilities and the wrath management that will be required in a Darklight build. There are many paths you can take with this gear set, depending on the build defining drops that you get, but it will hold you over and will take you to better places. That is all from me. I'll leave you with another minute as I finish off the Rift Guardian. After that, I attached a very brief Torment 5 demonstration just to show off the potential of this build if you have a simple Cinder code and a Maximus. If you liked what you saw, I would appreciate your subscription to my channel. Check out my Twitch, talk to me on Twitter and Facebook that I added to the description below, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yes, it was better.